All right, folks, got offensive coordinator Shannon Dawson here. Jump right into questions.
So, Coach, when you got through the film review, did it feel as good and look as good as it did live on game night?
Yeah, I mean, what looked good was those 5 guys up front. Period. You know, it's very simple. I mean, Tyler didn't get touched, and they got some pretty, talented guys rushing the quarterback. That's evident. But he sat back there and had all day, unimpeded. Man, it was awesome to watch those guys protect.
Coach, I just asked Mark kind of the same thing, but going back and watching film, what are some things that weren't obvious about Tyler's performance? Obviously, he played very well.
What was not obvious about what?
Yeah, what you maybe didn't see on Saturday that you watching film stood out?
I just thought he had a clear command of where everybody was. I mean, his timing, the ball going to the right guy, it just felt like he was in complete control of everything, and part of that too is what I alluded to first is, those guys up front, in my how many ever years of coaching versus an opponent like that, that's as good as I've seen in pass protection. I mean, it was unbelievable. And so part of it was that. And the other part was obviously he did have a good, his vision of the game was on point, and he had guys make plays. You got to have guys. The quarterback's a very dependent position, right? And so you need 10 guys around you doing their job for you to do yours, and those 10 guys were there for him.
So you talked before the season about wide receivers emerging and figuring out who your dudes are. Probably safe to say you've got a little bit of a better idea now.
Yeah, I mean, it's what I've seen every day, to be quite honest with you. I mean, I can't sit up here and tell you, stuff that hasn't happened in games because you're going to look at me crazy, right? But those guys have been making plays every day, and their confidence showed Saturday. And they just needed to do it in a game, in a big game, and so, what they did Saturday is what I see every day, and those guys are consistent. They're making plays down the field. Eventually we was going to put it together and have a game like that. And so, it just takes some time. Experience is what it is, but, now their confidence is high and they'll play with high confidence.
Also, your view on the red zone execution, because you talked last week about going 50-50 week 1 and touchdowns and field goals. I think it was 3 touchdowns, 1 field goal this time around.
75%. That's the mark. You're trying to score 75% touchdowns when you get down there. So I mean, we did better. It could have been 100%. We dropped the touchdown, the post route that ended up being a field goal after the turnover. That was disappointing because it was such a sharp field. I mean, defense gives us a turnover. We get it at the 30-yard line. We run a play. We don't get anything. We throw a post. It's open. It goes through his hands. And then we had to settle for a field goal. So that was disappointing, but it didn't really hurt us in the long run.
I wanted to ask about going against Lance Guidry and his defense and scrimmages. Just number one, how does that help, all his exotic looks and aggressive looks? How does that help your offense prepare? And also number two, just what type of problems does that aggressive approach present for offense?
Well, I mean, I've been a lot of places where it's very vanilla, and that, kind of lulls you to sleep at times. But, going against him every day is you got to be ready for everything, in pass protection. I talked about the big guys. I mean, our running backs did an unbelievable job Saturday in pass protection, unbelievable. And so when you go against Guidry, those points change, and so those guys, it's very complicated going against him. And you can see, if you watch that game on both sides, their quarterback's getting peppered. Our quarterback's not getting peppered. And so that is the difference in the game, in my opinion. That wears over time. And so, Coach Guidry does an unbelievable job of getting to the quarterback and getting to him clean. That's a whole different story, right? There's a difference between getting there and getting your hands on him and getting there clean and whacking him, That quarterback was getting peppered.
What does it mean, I don't know if you've ever had this before, but to have a head coach whose area of interest, influence, whatever you want to call it, on a daily basis is the offensive line. And for those guys, as a result of that probably, or a direct result, brought together from all different areas and different ways this early in the season, are performing at the level you're talking about?
You know, I mean, look, I don't know what to say about those guys, to be honest with you. They've gelled quick. You know, it is a new group. Coach Mirabal does an unbelievable job with those guys. But, you know, they're well-trained, well-coached. They're smart kids. Their capacity's high. You know, they're big bodies and they move people. They put their hands on you and you're done. I mean, it's just, they're a talented group and they're well-coached. And the reason we can do creative things on offense is because of those 5 guys. If you don't have that, then you're gonna get simple really quick. But when you got 5 guys like we have up front, I mean, I feel comfortable doing whatever because I can go empty. I can do whatever I want to do and feel certain that those 5 guys are going to do their job, and that is a good feeling.
And Mario's influence there, how impactful do you find that?
I think it's extremely impactful. I mean, look at his wealth of knowledge, right? And so, and I think him and Coach Mirabal have known each other for what, since 6 years old? I forget what they say. But I mean, those guys work great together, you know, and then it's a good working relationship in the whole room, to be honest with you. I mean, you know, game plans come together from every different area because people have been at different places, and what you see on Saturday is a collaboration of a lot of stuff, you know, like the touchdown to Jacoby. I mean, that was Coach Mirabal at the beginning of the week. He's like, hey, we need to run this play. Well, you know, I get credit for it in a way, but it was not my idea, you know. And so that's all him. And so it's a process of just putting everything together and putting it on the field. But having those guys up front allows you to be creative.
Coach, I was actually going to ask you about that play to pass. Can you explain more about that? Not everybody maybe would have thrown the ball at that time, but and especially to the outside. Can you explain maybe now?
You talking about the one to Jacoby?
Yeah. The last one on the touchdown.
Oh, you're talking about the vertical?
Yeah.
Oh, that was easy. Yeah, I mean, I'm going to keep attacking. I mean, that was an easy one because of the time left in the game. You know, when you get conservative, you get beat, you know, and so we're not going to do that. I mean, that's just not how I was raised coaching. That's not how Coach Cristobal wants to be. And so we were going to keep attacking. And if they gave us a chance and they pressed us, we were going vertical. And so that was easy. You know, I trust that they can make that throw in that situation, and they did.
The one you were talking about with Mirabal, was that the first touch?
Yeah, the one where he motioned and went back. You know, that's a very interesting play, right? So,
Coach, you were talking about obviously outside the offensive line at tonight. CC Maui seems like he's had some growing pains for his first 2 games, a couple holes. How would you evaluate his first 2 games at college level?
How would I evaluate him? Like I should evaluate him at the age he's at? He's doing just fine, I promise you. Kid's extremely talented. You know, to think that a freshman isn't going to have some growing pains, especially in games like that. I mean, to show up in just a couple plays, right? The kid's playing hard. He's an unbelievably great kid to be around, and we're blessed to have him, and he's going to play good football for a long time.
What was your evaluation of how the run game played out during the course of that game?
You know, I mean, I hear a lot about, you know, last week I heard we couldn't throw the football, and you know, I mean, it's like I forgot how to throw the football all of a sudden, and but I thought I have a different opinion in the run game this week. I thought we were very physical in the run game. You know, it was obvious that A&M came in wanting to stop us running the football, right? They had the #1 pass defense in America last year. They put all this emphasis, and we had a good game. Look, you know, you watch that film, there's safeties making the tackle, right? So what do you want as a coordinator? You want safeties making the tackle. You want to get the ball in the run game on safeties. Which that tells you that the O-line is typically doing their job. The ball's on the safety, where the safeties were pretty tight to the line of scrimmage, you know? And so kind of flipped from the week before. And so when they're that tight, that means that the coverage is probably favorable, right? So I didn't think the run game was bad at all. I just thought that, you know, they put an emphasis to stop it. We were running the ball at times and getting it on the safety and getting 5 yards. And the safety's making a tackle at 5 or 6 yards. Well, that means the safety's feeling pretty quick. And so I thought we were very physical in the run game. After watching the film, it kind of verified that. We were knocking people around. And we just wasn't getting the yards we got the previous week. But guess what? They're a pretty good team too, you know? So we were playing a little bit better team.
Coach, what have you seen from watching film on Bethune's defense?
You know, They do some things movement up front that give you some issues targeting, you know, I mean, you gotta be well prepared. I mean, they're gonna, bring pressure from different areas. They have some stuff that they overload you with and they don't have anything to lose. And so they're probably gonna come in and throw the kitchen sink at us. So we gotta be prepared. We gotta be on point.
What did you guys see when you reviewed the holding calls up front?
I mean, I don't know. What'd you see?
That's why I'm asking.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to be ultra critical about penalties because ultimately, in my situation, whatever it's called, you got to overcome it. I mean, you can't. I haven't in my coaching lifespan. I haven't seen a holding penalty get reversed. Have you? So you might as well live with it, right? And try to overcome it. I mean, we didn't start the game very well. 2, 3 and outs, was not how we actually planned to start the game. And so, but one of them was we dropped the third down on the first drive, and then the second one on 3rd and 1 we got a holding penalty, which put us into a 3rd and long. And so, it was more so what we were doing than what they were doing, and we had to keep that clarity because ultimately that's what proved to be, getting us going. It's like, look, just keep doing what you're doing, just stop shooting yourself in the foot,
Time for 1 or 2 more. Go ahead.
How would you, I guess, kind of scheme not really having a ton of a passing game with the tight ends? Cam had a nice catch on Saturday, but
Yeah.
Elijah's more of a pass catcher than he is, and I think Riley's only had 1 catch for 2 games. How do you kind of scheme not utilizing the tight end quite as much so far?
Well, I mean, look, not utilizing it is a phrase that you can use if you choose to, but there's 5 people that go in routes basically every play, unless we're protecting with them. And so it's no different when Cam caught the cross route, right? He caught the cross route because he was open and got thrown the ball. And so typically receivers that are open get thrown the ball because that's how the progression works. So it's not about like targeting a certain position group, which I get asked that for 22 years and it's frustrating, but everybody wants to know that question. And ultimately our route schemes are what they are. Everybody runs the same routes, and if you run the route versus a certain coverage and you get open and the quarterback's reads take you there, you will get the ball. So that will be my answer for that question for the remainder of my time here, actually.
Last question if someone has one.